Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Raquel and I am going to be going over all the books that I read in December and January. I never did have a chance to talk to you about December because I was very excited about my favorite books of the year and just never got to it. So there are a lot of books that I'm going to go through. I read about 7 in December and 8 in January, so we're going to go through this very quickly. So starting off in December, of course I had to read some cute little Christmas romances, right? Started out with 'Tis the Season for Revenge. This book is about a girl who gets dumped by a really crappy guy. He is a lawyer. He's giving all of the Warner Huntington III energy, and he's just an asshole. And she decides that the best way to get revenge is to go after his boss. And there's just nothing that brings her more joy than the thought of showing up at the company Christmas party on the arm of the big boss. It's going to make him jealous and upset, and he's going to want to get her back. And it goes from there. I liked the idea of this book, and there were things that I definitely enjoyed. I flew through it. I read it on a train ride home one day and kind of read almost the entire book in one sitting. But not that great. Believe it or not very Christmassy. I think there's very, very few mentions of Christmas in general. It's just about the goal of the Christmas party. This actually, I think, starts around Halloween. And then it just was way too smutty. I just didn't like this very much. There were things that were interesting. I flew through it, so that gives us some points, but I ended up settling on 3 stars for this. The next book I read was The Unmaking of June Farrow. This is Adrienne Young's newest book, and I love this so much. I read Spells of Forgetting last year, and it was one of my favorites, and I was very excited to read this one, and I was definitely not disappointed. I love her writing. I love the characters that she builds. I listened to this on audio, and I highly recommend that. I think the audio narrator did a really, really good job. But I don't want to give away too much about this. This is definitely one of those books you need to go into blind, but I will tell you it is about June Farrow, who comes from a long line of women who end up kind of going crazy. It starts with hallucinations, and they end up going crazy and they die. And we explore that a little bit and whether or not the women are actually going crazy or not. There is some magical realism, and that's all I'm going to tell you, but this is very good. I really liked it. I gave it a 4.25 stars. Next, I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I love this book. I'm a big fan of historical fiction in general, and I really haven't been reading enough of it lately. This is a World War II historical fiction that takes place in France during the German occupation. And we follow 2 women, 2 sisters. The older sister is kind of the more responsible one. She's married, she has a child. So she's very much I'm going to stay under the radar. I'm just going to do what I'm told, no matter how hard it is, because I just want this to blow over. And if I do what I'm told, then I'll be safe and my family will be safe. Whereas the younger sister's no, we need to fight back. And, she doesn't have those same responsibilities. She's very young, and she will do whatever it takes and sacrifice whatever it takes for the cause. And just kind of the journeys that each of these sisters go and how hard their life becomes and their struggles. And it is really sad, very moving. I loved this book, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. Next, I read Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison, and this was so cute. I got all of the Christmas feelings. The main character owns a Christmas farm that's not doing that well, and so she enters into this contest through this social media person. The social media person is going to come visit her farm, but she really wants to appeal to this social media person's interest in couples. So she lies and says that she and her boyfriend own this place and run it together. And so who better than to be your fake boyfriend than your best friend, who you've been best friends with for 10 years. And it is just super cute. And I really, really, really liked this. This is actually part of a series, and each book is supposed to be read in a certain season. There's one for, obviously, winter, which is this one. There's one for spring, summer, and fall. I don't know that I'm going to get to those anytime soon, but this one was really cute and a perfect Christmas book. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid books. They're so good. They're usually narrated by Julia Whalen, who's my favorite audiobook narrator, and I think that just makes them even better. But Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing is just very thought-provoking. I feel like it feels very real. It's exactly how I would feel, would I be in these main character situations. And so just her books in general are very comforting for me. But this one, if you've ever seen the movie Pearl Harbor, it's like that. It's not historical or taking place during war or anything, but the kind of love triangle due to the fact that we thought one of them was dead. And then having to choose with the new guy versus the romance that you had before with the person you thought was dead. Very emotional, very hard decision for our main character to make, and just kind of exploring the fact that when we choose someone, it's not because we're necessarily choosing a person, but also we're choosing the person that we want to be, and how different people kind of bring out different sides of ourselves and who do we want to be. Next, I read the Caraval trilogy. I did make a reading vlog about this, so if you really want to see like all of my thoughts, you can go watch that. But overall, this is like a 3.5 4-star series for me. I rated all of them about the same, and some days I'm like 4 stars, some days I'm like 3.5. I think if you really like young adult fantasy romance, you will probably really like these, but I think I'm just slowly outgrowing some of the young adult series. But this is just about a traveling carnival, and it's a cute fantasy romance, very magical, very whimsical. There were a lot of things I liked about it. It just felt a bit young. Next, I read the first 2 books in the Dreamland Billionaires series. We have The Fine Print and Terms and Conditions. Now, this series is about a man who is leaving his grandsons kind of an inheritance, and they are going to be inheriting Dreamland. Now, this is basically Disney. This Dreamland has a theme park that's the most magical, happy place in the world. They have a streaming service. Just when I say Dreamland, just imagine Disney, because it's the same. But there are 3 grandchildren. I haven't read the 3rd one yet. I hope to do that in February. But there are like these conditions that the grandsons have to do before they can get their inheritance. So in The Fine Print, our main character has to create something new, something that's going to just really make a big difference in Dreamland, whether that's a new ride or something big, some kind of big new project that has to be approved by this board that his grandfather picked before he passed away. And then in the second one, Terms and Conditions, this brother has to get married before he can get his inheritance. So these were both really good. I really enjoyed both of them. I gave this one a 4-star and I gave this one a 3.5 star. And I think my only critique is that it's just a kind of a personal thing, but I am just not always a big fan of like a really grumpy, grouchy rich guy. They're just kind of like too grumpy and mean at the beginning. It just doesn't make me really want to root for them. But for what it is really good, and I did enjoy them both and read them really quickly, and I am really excited about reading the 3rd one. I think that brother is going to be the most interesting to read because he's like the funnier one, so he may be a little less grouchy than the first 2, so I'm looking forward to that. Then I read The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first book in a young adult mystery thriller series. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder last year. That series was really fun, and so I was looking for something kind of similar. And this series is about the FBI recruits a couple of teenagers that have this natural ability for certain things. Like, some teenagers are just naturally really good at profiling. Some of them are just incredibly good at being able to detect lies. And they all have these natural abilities that really help the FBI solve these cold cases. And I thought it was really interesting. Again, flew through it super fast, and I really liked it. I rated it 4 stars. And as much as I did like it, I don't necessarily think I'm in a hurry to pick up the next one, just because, I don't know, the idea of starting another series just doesn't sound that great to me. And when I pick up a thriller, it's because I just want something fast-paced, and I don't want to like start another series. So I don't know, maybe I'll read the others in the future, but I'm not dying to do so right now. Next, I read Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is the 2nd book in the Letters of Enchantment series following Divine Rivals. I picked up Divine Rivals last year and I really liked it. I didn't love it, I think, as much as everyone else did, but I think I just was expecting this really like high stakes fantasy romance series, and that's not what this is. This is leaning a little bit more towards like the cozy fantasy. Not to say that there aren't like emotional, impactful, like high stakes things that happen occasionally in this series, but it is I kind of like go into this saying it's a historical fiction book with a really wholesome, adorable romance and beautiful writing with like a little sprinkling of fantastical elements. And so when I picked this second book up, I knew exactly what to expect. I knew what I was getting. I was in the mood for that, and I actually really like this one more. I think going back and reading Divine Rivals now, I would appreciate it a little bit more than I did the first time, but I really liked this one, and the letters in this, the first one too, but I think I just was ready for it. The letters are just so beautiful. The writing is so sweet. And yeah, I really like this. I gave it a 4 stars, but it's like a really strong 4 stars. I really liked it. Next, I read Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. I love going into books blind, okay? I really like to know as little about them as possible when I pick them up. So this has been on my TBR for a long time. And in my mind, I'm like, cool, historical romance with pirate themes. Like, that sounds so fun. It's Pirates of the Caribbean in a book. No. This book is so dark, and I am not a fan of multiple love interests simultaneously. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like reverse harem. I don't like wide shoes. It's not my thing. I was not expecting that. And this book is just so dark and brutal. And while there were things I absolutely loved about this story, there were things that I just made me really anxious and were just too dark for my liking. And I was just expecting this, like, pirate adventure, and that is not what this is, okay? So I think if you really like dark romance, if that's your thing and you like pirate themes, you will probably absolutely love this book. I just know for me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of dark romance, so I had a hard time reading it. I love reading to kind of like help with my anxiety. I don't really want to increase my anxiety with the dark things and themes in this book. So I settled on a 3.5, but it is mostly for personal preference. I think this book is done really well. It's written really well. And like I said, if you like dark romance, you're probably gonna love this. Then I read Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This is so adorable. If you just took happiness and like wrapped it up in the pages of a book, it would be this. It's so cute. Our main character was born with a hand deformity. Her right hand is significantly smaller than her left hand, and she's always been really self-conscious about it and was in a previous relationship that made her feel kind of bad about it. And one night at a Halloween party, she dresses up as a pirate, and she goes to this party and meets this guy who's also dressed up as a pirate, and they start talking, and he has a peg leg because in reality, he does have a below-the-knee amputation, and he actually wears a prosthetic all the time. And they kind of have a moment and like bond a little bit over that. They end up having a one-night stand. It goes really well. They kind of hit it off, but they both, decide that they don't really want anything serious. So the plan is to really never speak again. A few weeks later, she finds out she is pregnant, and it kind of goes from there. I think my favorite thing is that our main guy, Beau, was just all in. He was ready to help. He was there, and he's like such a nerd, but like I picture this like really cute nerd who has no idea how cute they are, but he's so nice and so cute and funny, and he plays Dungeons and Dragons with his friends, but like it works. I don't know. He's just like the cutest guy, and the fact that he's just so all in with this baby and wanting to be a part of every step of the way and just wanting to help her, and their adorable love story, like it's just so cute, okay? If you want happiness and sunshine, just read this book, okay? And the last thing that I read in January was Peaches and Honey by R. Rada. This book I've been seeing a little bit here and there on TikTok, and I think what intrigued me was that it is very much compared to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which if you've been here for a little bit, that was my favorite book from last year, and so very intriguing. I definitely see the similarities. It is a very similar story, but in this story, our main character, we start off in like the 1100s, and we see her over several centuries. In the 1100s, she's given this piece of fruit that offers her the gift of immortality, and we see her. We get little glimpses here and there every so often throughout hundreds of years. And I think the last scene that we get in this book is around like the 1930s, 1940s, something like that. So we see her from like the 1100s and just all these things that she goes through, the wars, the plague, she goes and sees like Shakespeare plays when Shakespeare's still alive, and just like all these experiences that she goes through, some of the hardships, some of the good things, bad things, everything. And the god that gave her the piece of fruit at the beginning, he shows up a lot to like help her when she needs it and save her life multiple times. And they end up falling in love. I think this book was really well written. And honestly, I can't really put my finger on anything negative about it. I liked it and I enjoyed it. But I think I just couldn't help but compare it to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue the entire time I was reading it. And just because I've read something similar that is just significantly better, I just couldn't get there with this book. I found myself just not caring the first half of the book. I think the later half, I was just more interested in reading about those particular historical time periods, which kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And then I had time to like get to know her, our main character, and kind of all the stuff that she's been through. And I did start liking the book a lot more the last half. But yeah, I think I'm on the fence of like 3.54 stars. I don't know. I know there is a second book. The first one kind of left off with more problems that we need to deal with. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but I just haven't had like a solid 5-star book in several months, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm feeling slumpy or I don't know. I read a lot of really good things lately, just nothing that's super, super fantastic. But there are a lot of new releases coming out in February that I'm super excited to read, and yeah, I'm excited to share this with you. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.